You saw Miller's comments to you the other day. What did you think? Calling you a fraud
and disrespectful. I mean, is there anything more fraudulent than taking performance-enhancing drugs to try and win a sporting event? Is there anything more disrespectful? I mean, this is a guy who abused Anthony Joshua's family, basically, and stuck it on him face to face and told him all these things he's going to do, and he couldn't bring himself to try and do that fair and square. So he had to stick things in his bottom. So, my beef, it ain't even a beef with Jarrell. I like Jarrell Miller, but he keeps piping up because he needs the profile. So sadly, we get to a stage where he's got to try and actually call me out to get a little bit of profile. But I don't, we've been around here a million times, but don't call me disrespectful or a fraud when you've just injected things inside you to try and give you a better chance to beat another man in sport. I mean, the way I was brought up, which was obviously exceptionally well, but what was always, you don't cheat. You do not cheat in sport. That's the one thing you don't do is cheat in sport. And I'd get a right clip round the ear hole if I cheated in sport. So for me, what he did was unacceptable. But that's amplified because he did it to Anthony Joshua, who I class as a very good friend. But it's the way it played out. If he would have come out and it would have been a quiet presser and he wouldn't sue. This is a guy who came out, like I said, said things about AJ and his family. This is a guy who accused Anthony Joshua of cheating. Went straight back into camp and cheated. So, but I genuinely wish Jarrell all the best.
Those were the words of Eddie Hearn. Of course, you knew this news from Jarrell Big Baby Miller that claimed that Eddie Hearn is a fraud, and said his comments about himself were hurtful and he's a fraud. And it's crazy for what Jarrell Miller's saying, because if you're in the wrong, you're in the wrong. And what made it so bad, like Eddie Hearn explained, I agree with him. I think the only thing I would disagree about, and I'll get to that later, but I'll agree with Eddie Hearn, what he said about Jarrell Miller. You don't call someone a fraud when you're in the wrong, being a fraud. And what made him a huge fraud was he accused Anthony Joshua of cheating himself, saying, his body type, you can't lose weight, or you can't get that big naturally the way you were. You went from this in the Olympics to that at this time, so you got to be cheating. I've heard people in the black market or this, that, and the other that said you were cheating. But that tells you something. That tells you that if you heard something, where did you hear it from, and how did you hear it, and who you heard it from? Think about it. Maybe you heard it from the same silly son of a bitches that you got the drugs from, because you were the one that ended up popping dirty. And he goes right back in, accuses him, he talks all this shit, but this is Jarrell Miller. This is a guy from Brooklyn. He's a Brooklynite. So he's going to say certain things to get up under his skin. He's been doing that. That's his MO. That's Jarrell Miller to Joshua. He just originally did not like Anthony Joshua. He called him fake. He called Anthony Joshua a fraud and a cheat. But it comes out that he's the fraud and the cheat. So it's like that guy where you get those calls, and those calls are, hello, how are you? I am calling from Dell, and I am calling because you have a virus on your computer. And actually, they want to charge you a bunch of money to put a fucking virus on your computer, so then you can turn around and call them back so they can take it off. That's what Jarrell Miller done. He perpetrated it. Oh, he's the fraud. He's the fraud. He's taking drugs. But then he was the one taking drugs. And I do mean drugs. I don't mean a drug. plural, drugs. He was taking, he had 3 of them. 3 EPO, 1615 GWH, and HGH. Now, EPO alone will get you kicked out of something national forever. You will never be able to participate in any type of national. If that was the NFL, NBA, you won't play. You're done. You better start selling shoes at Foot Locker or some shit and wear the little striped shirts. Because you're not playing any games. You're not playing any professional sports at that point. Well, boxing is a little different. Now, here's the thing. This shit happened in April. Okay? Now, you would think someone like Jarrell Miller, if he's going to be humble about it, accept what he's done, like he said on Instagram. But at first, he tried to cover the shit up. Don't believe everything you hear. It's just what it don't seem like what it really is. We gonna get down to the bottom of it. I can assure you, this is it. I'm Jarrell Miller. 2 days later, they found 2 more fucking drugs in his system. The whole energy changed. The story was totally different. He flipped the script. I made a bad call. I'm dying inside. I made a mistake. I'm gonna fess up to it. I mean, he was close in that bitch. I'm gonna confess up to it. I'm like, whoa. What happened to the dude that said don't believe everything you hear? Now, here's the thing. People roasted Jarrell Miller. I mean, roasted Deontay Wilder. And, Deontay Wilder called it. Deontay Wilder couldn't. He talked so much shit about Jarrell Miller, Tyson Fury. A lot of people did. And guess what? The one person that did not, I repeat, did not clown him like that, was Anthony Joshua, the same guy that he tried to cheat to inject drugs in, come into the fucking ring glowing. He was going to be glowing in that ring. He would, because you think about it, if they busted him with 3, now, we only got to speculate at this point, okay? We got to go there because now he's guilty. If he had 3 different drugs in his system, what's the odds of him taking more of the same drugs or different drugs? This motherfucker could be a walking pharmacy walking into the ring. There ain't no guarantee he would have just had those 3. Because if he's on the roll and I guess he's dumb enough to think they won't catch him, and if they fuck around and don't catch him, and let's say he was using someone else's pee or urine or whatever, right? Or blood, or I don't know how you would do that. But, if he thought that he was going to get away with that and they let him, okay, he would have had more drugs in his system. And then at what point, then what do you say? He has 6 or 7 drugs in his system. And let's add this. Anthony Joshua coming into the ring like he was in the Ruiz fight. Oh, that would have been bad news. Then he would have had them drugs in his system. He would have been fried anyway, because either before, they caught him before. If they would have caught him after, there's no telling how many drugs he had in his system by the time, because they never caught him. So he's thinking, well, fuck, they ain't gonna never catch me. I'm gonna keep doing them. You know what I mean? Either more the same or different drugs, right? So, again, that ain't been a year ago. I know there's other fighters that got popped with drugs and nobody did shit, slap on the wrist. Nobody got fined, 6-month ban, right? And nobody's really talking about that. Nobody talks about Canelo no more, right? He tested positive for clenbuterol, right? Nobody tested positive. Nobody cared about that. Nobody talks about that. They want to know who's the next fight. But Jarrell Miller, right? He was one of the last people that got popped. On top of that, it's too early to be saying, hey, I think Eddie Hearn's a fraud. Dude, you still got popped less than a year ago. That shit been like 8 months ago, 9 months ago. It ain't even been a year. I think it's too tender to start now. You're still talking shit, or he thinks that the stigma or the shit talk or the reputation, right, of himself is over. He thinks everything that blew over. So now he says, oh, I think Eddie Hearn is a fraud and this and that. But this also goes to show you that coming from Jarrell Miller, you can't do something like that and then try to kiss ass. Because that's all he was doing. He was kissing ass to Eddie Hearn, thinking Eddie Hearn was going to sign him. Let's be real. That's what he was doing. Putting his fucking head on his shoulder. Who the fuck does that? Put his head on his shoulder. I want to come home. You know I want to come home. And then when Eddie said what he said, he got mad. Well, you shouldn't have done that anyway. You know what I mean? You can't kiss someone's ass and don't get mad because you don't get the reaction you want. That's all that was. This is it. Now he calls Eddie Hearn a fraud. He's a fraud. He's a fraud, yo. He's a fraud. But nobody told you to kiss ass, dude. It's been less than a year. You got popped. People don't forget about that shit. People do not forget about the bad shit you do. I'm sorry. You can do 1,000 good things and one fucked up thing. People won't forget that. I'm sorry. That's what it is, especially if it's less than a year ago. Now, back to the one thing in this video that I would disagree with. He said, well, he abused Anthony Joshua's family. No, he tried to. He talked shit. Now, if you call that abuse, okay, sticks and stones, right? But abused his family? No, he didn't abuse anybody. But if he was able, and if he would have been able to get in that ring, that would have been absolutely true. So attempted to abuse Anthony Joshua's family. Because we don't know, again, we still don't know what type of shape, honestly, that Anthony Joshua was in. Because he would have fought on that same night regardless if it was Andy Ruiz or whoever. Even though he was going to fight a totally different fighter, it wouldn't have mattered, because if he was still injured, like people claim and rumor that he denies, like a lot of people deny, but a lot of people don't, right? Based on how he was acting. He would have been in worse trouble. Jarrell Miller really saved himself, right? Because if he would have got popped after that fight, if the same outcome happened and he would have stopped Ruiz or worse, because, Jarrell Miller, he's a multiple puncher. He likes to throw punches in bunches, right? So if he would have hurt Anthony Joshua the same way Andy Ruiz or worse, then they would have popped him with drugs? Oh, no. Oh, no, you would have had a scandal across the world. He would have been banned for 2 or 3 years. You know what I mean? On top of drug use. It's just fortunate that all the deaths in boxing have not came to a person that has tested positive for something. The moment that happens, I believe that is the time when they're going to start cracking down, going to start banning people for life, going to start fining people $1,500,000 for taking this shit. But Eddie Hearn's right. I got to agree with him 100%. I'll leave the link below. Let you guys check it out. It's about 30 minutes. If you got the time, tell me what you think. Please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunching. Peace.